So, welcome everyone. Let us start. So, as we begin every time, let us go through these lines, the Bodhisattva vows. So, anyone who would like to go first? Shweta, Nandini.
I'll read,
Yeah,
please.
please go ahead.
May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened.
Thank you so much. Nandini, would you like to read the vows also?
Yeah, sure. Uh, May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles. And for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. Thank you.
Thank you. So, we'll go through the verses on training the mind. And they say that it's only even half a verse is enough for this lifetime if truly we are able to practice half a verse. So let us go through them again just to remind ourselves what is our possibility. Yeah, please, Shweta, would you like to go next? Please.
Atisha's Lojong root verses on training the mind. The supreme understanding is to realize the meaning of selflessness. The supreme spiritual discipline is to tame one's own mind. Supreme great quality is altruism. The supreme oral instruction is to observe the mind at all times. The supreme remedy is to know that nothing has self nature. The supreme conduct is to be in disharmony with the world.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Nandini?
The supreme accomplishment is a continuous decrease of disturbing emotions. The supreme sign of accomplishment is a continuous decrease of wishes and wants. The supreme generosity is non-attachment. The supreme ethical conduct is to pacify one's mind. The supreme patience is to take the lowest place. The supreme effort is letting go of activity. The supreme concentration is not altering the mind.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll read the last bit. The supreme wisdom is to not grasp onto anything as the self. The supreme spiritual teacher is the one who exposes our hidden flaws, and the supreme instruction is the one that help us to strike at those flaws. The supreme companions are mindfulness and alertness. The supreme inspiration is enemies, hindrances, disease, and suffering. The supreme method is to be natural. The supreme way of benefiting is to help others enter the dharma. The supreme benefit is a mind that turns towards the Dharma. So today we have to begin with, I believe it's verse 12. The supreme effort is letting go of activity. So we are going to listen to first Jetsunma's teaching, and if since both of them are in continuation, one after the other, the supreme effort is letting go of activity, and then she continues with the supreme concentration is not altering the mind. So when we are looking at the mind, observing the mind, we are not trying to manipulate it. That's where it goes. So they were both in conjunction, so almost she takes them both together. So we'll listen to the teaching.
So we were, where are we? We are still going for the paramitas, these qualities needed for full enlightenment. So we have dealt with generosity, ethics, and patience, and now we're dealing with effort. So Atisha says, the supreme effort is letting go of activity. I am taking this to refer to our meditation practice. Many people, when they come to meditation, throw themselves into it with great enthusiasm. And certainly in the Tibetan tradition, when Westerners especially go in for longer retreats, they usually end up getting what is called lung, which is like a pranic imbalance. Sometimes they become very sick. And it's because they're trying too hard. And especially in our modern day and age when our lives are already so stressful, our lives are already filled with more than enough activity, both physical and especially mental, to make our spiritual practice into another form of stress and tension and got to achieve is counterproductive. There's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to gain. It's what we lose that is important, not what we gain. So we must be very careful not to plug in to that same old energy of got to get somewhere. What am I going to get out of this? What experiences am I going to get? How long does it take to get realized? That kind of pressure which we put on ourselves is very counterproductive. It's just the ego wanting to be spiritual. A bigger, better, more spiritual me. We can then tell everybody of the fantastic results of our great spiritual endeavors. This is exactly what we don't need. And so even back in the 10th, 11th century, Atisha understood that. And so therefore he says that the supreme effort is letting go of activity. So meditation shouldn't be more effort. I definitely, in the Tibetan tradition at least, the emphasis is on relax. Just relax. Make the mind open, spacious. Now, it's not like we're making the mind relax like lying out on the beach, going to sleep. It's not exactly that kind of relax. It's not going to sleep relax. The mind is aware, is conscious, is very, very clear, totally present, but within this open, spacious feeling in the mind. It's like sort of like a paraglider. You know, these paragliders, they're out there, they're not making any effort. They're totally poised, but within this vast open expanse. So we have to make our mind like a paraglider. Very present. The paraglider is not going to fall asleep. That paraglider is wide awake. Paraglider? You understand paragliding? I don't know. In India, we call it paragliding. We see them over the sea. Yeah. They have, yes, you know, in those big sort of parachute type things. And they just sail along. Very, in India at least, it's called paragliding. So that's how we have to have our mind, like that, you know, very aware, very present, but very effortlessly expansive. It's not a matter of, we don't actually achieve through pushing ourselves, pressuring ourselves. We achieve through relaxing the various levels of the mind while being totally present at the same time. And so this is why he says, I think, that supreme effort, the highest effort, is letting go of all mental activity and just allowing the mind to be as it is, but knowing. So it's not actually, we're not trying to do anything. We're trying to deconstruct and be present at the same time. Aware, conscious, awakening up. Does that make sense? So then the supreme concentration, carrying on.
So just taking a little pause here, many beautiful points. So just reiterating, and if there are reflections, let us take up reflections. The supreme effort is letting go of activity. What she was talking of is mental activity. Usually we are always trying to solve so many things in our head by reasoning, and constantly thinking about it, why this happened, why that happened, what did that person get out of that, and what did I get out of it. And that we all know by now that it complicates issues rather than resolving it. It gives us rather a migraine or a headache rather than presenting us with a solution. And if we really want to be restful, peaceful, and even we have resolutions, the resolutions may not be in the way that I want, but they will be resolutions. But they can't be if we don't center the mind, if we don't make the mind rested in its basic state, which is the state of awareness. So I think we'll do a short 2 minutes, 3 minutes meditation on that before we begin to the next one. And also what she was sharing is that usually the mind that we have, we always use it as a means to an end. The whole life, why am I doing college education? So that I can get a job. Why am I getting married? So that I can get settled, or so that I get a companion, so that this, so that that. So everything, usually the sansaric mind, the worldly mind, the limited sense mind, it will always do things because it will want to get something out of those things. मुझे क्या मिलेगा, इससे मुझे क्या मिलेगा. And she was talking about when we even begin with meditation or the spiritual path, there also we are looking, when will I achieve enlightenment fast? So the mind has not changed. It is the same sansaric mind, it is the same limited mind, which still wants to use now the spiritual path as a means to an end. While the whole spirituality is this radical shift, if we can have in ourselves, that now we don't use things as a means to an end. Why am I walking the path, spiritual path? Because it is joyful. So there is no means to an end. Why am I helping others? Because it is joyful. Why am I offering myself to the mother? Because it is joyful. Not because what will the mother give if I offer myself to the mother. Just because surrender itself is a joy. That's why we surrender. So I think that is also a very important point which we can remember, and because we forget from time to time, that to notice this mind in us which comes up from time to time, to become conscious of it, कि इससे मुझे क्या मिलेगा, what is in here for me. And if we can radically change that mind and do the things because we like to do them. Why to walk spiritual path? Because it's joyful, I want to do it. Why to go out in nature? Because it's joyful. Why to read any book? Because it is joyful. Not that reading a book, what will it get me? Maybe some other stage. So this one thing I wanted to reiterate upon, that change, that radical shift in consciousness, and also this relaxed alertness. So the mind is relaxed. It's not wanting to do anything out of meditation, but along with the relaxation, there is a alertness. So this is, I thought we'll do a little practice here. If those of us who are here are ready for it, maybe 3-4 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes, Manik.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So just closing our eyes if possible. Centering the mind with the breath. And now just becoming aware of all the sensations in the body that are there. Maybe a pain here or there, maybe a feeling of tingling. Just becoming aware of the sensations in the body. Maybe in somewhere an itch is there, so just becoming aware of it. And then becoming aware of the sounds that are there, that you're listening to. All kinds of noises and sounds that you can become aware of. And when the air is hitting the body, that also becoming aware of that sensation. The slight sound of the breath going in and going out. In this, we are not going to ignore anything. We are just going to embrace everything. Just become aware of all that comes in the expanse of awareness. Maybe a sound on the street, vehicles going around, AC, fan. And just knowing oneself as this vast open field of awareness. where all the feelings, thoughts, sounds, noises, sensations can come and leave. Taking stand as this vast, open, spacious awareness. Maybe there are certain feelings from today in the head, just allowing them to be, becoming aware that they are there. They can sit as long as they want. Maybe some thoughts churning up in the head, just becoming aware of them. So in this state, one is relaxed, one is not trying to do anything aggressive or wanting to reach anywhere, and one is alert as well, aware, alert, and relaxed, letting things come, letting things go. So this is kind of a small taste of a state of knowing. One knows. There is a knowing that knows the sensations, that noises, the feeling of the air. So that knowing is there, as in the space in which all the play happens. Taking stance as that knowing. So it's not a dull state, it's a very relaxed and active, alert state of mind. So just wanted to share shortly this. This we can do anytime. This can be inculcated as with the meditations that we do, or getting up in the morning, sleeping at night, just relaxing at this as this vast open awareness. Even when we have time from during the day, we have like minutes of silence to us where we are not actively doing something. Where to rest the mind? Resting as this awareness. Not resting in the forest of the thought, because there we don't get rest, we get entangled and drained. So this is the true state, restful state of the mind where we can relax it. Yeah. So I just wanted to share this small practice, and then we'll just continue with the next verse, which was the supreme concentration is not altering the mind. And what we were practicing just now is again kind of a reflection of that, because we were just aware of the things happening. If there is a jealous thought or a blamey thought or a depressive thought, we are not doing anything with it. No manipulation required. Just being aware, okay, yes, it's there. So that is not altering the mind. We're not manipulating it. We're not trying to pretend something, show something else, hide it away, nothing doing. Just becoming aware of the state of mind and seeing that it changes. It comes and goes, it comes and goes. Seeing no matter how intense our state is, still it comes and goes, it comes and goes. So looking at that. So before we go ahead with the next one, any reflections here, anyone? Okay, so I'm going ahead. Yeah, yes, Nandini, you have something?
No, I just wanted to say no, nothing.
Okay, you go ahead then.
on from that. The supreme concentration is not altering the mind. Again, we are not trying to constrict the mind into certain patterns. What we're trying to do, as I say, is to deconstruct the mind. We're trying to leave the mind as it is and just know it. Our whole problem is that normally, while we are thinking, while we are feeling, we are totally immersed in that. We're like being in the ocean, we're tossed up and down by the waves. We're totally submerged in our thoughts and our thinking. So the whole point is not so much dealing with the waves as dealing with how to know the waves. Then the waves will subside of their own. We don't have to force them to subside. The more we are aware of the mind and can witness the mind without being submerged in the mind, the more the mind of itself will begin to quieten down, become more ordered, become more calm and clear. We don't have to try to make the mind clear. We don't have to try to make the mind calm. It will do that of its own account if we only learn how to develop the quality of being conscious, of being aware. So this ability to observe the mind, to know the mind, without being submerged in the mind, of itself will help the mind to heal itself. We don't have to do anything as far as that is concerned. So it looks like we're not doing anything. This is why he says, you know, we have to let go of activity. We should not alter the mind. The whole point is that this conceptual mind of ours, all our thinking and feeling and emotions, all of that tumult it would deal with itself if only we could learn how to step back and just be aware. We don't have to do anything. We just have to know the mind at that moment, without judging it, without trying to change it. Then of itself it will heal, it will solve its own problems.
So this is just taking a pause here, because this is very much in resonance with what Mother talks about stepping back. So Mother talks about witnessing, taking the sakshi bhav or the stand of the witness. So I'm going to read something from the Mother, because when we are looking at the mind and not altering it, we are taking a witness stance. We are stepping back from the active surface activity of the mind. So Mother says, there are witnesses everywhere. It is a capacity of the being to detach itself, to stand back and look at what is happening. And it's amazing that this can happen anywhere. We may be in the middle of an intense chaos or confusion in the mind, and that witnessing can happen in the middle of that chaos. So we don't have to first struggle about, oh, how do I make myself first calm and then take the stepping back. It's in the middle of the chaos that we can step back. We have that possibility. So she says it is the capacity of the being to detach itself, to stand back and look at what is happening. As when one looks at something happening in the street, or when one looks at others playing and does not himself play. One remains seated, looking at the others, moving, but himself does not move. That's how it is. And this would also remind us of this story from the Upanishads where they talk about एक डाल पर दो चिड़िया बैठी, एक guru एक chela. So, and the chela is, so two birds are sitting on a tree, and one is eating the fruit and enjoying the rasa of it, while the other one just watches. So it's also in reference to that, I think, the verse from the Upanishads. And then Mother says that we have this witnessing capacity in all parts of the being. In the mental, we have this capacity. In the feeling level, we have this capacity. In the physical level, also, we have this capacity of standing back and witnessing. And she says, in all the parts of the being, there is one side which can do this, put itself at the back, remain quiet, and look without participating. So even when we are going through, say, annoyance, frustration, something has happened through the day and we are getting annoyed at something. In the middle of that getting annoyed, we can observe this parallel consciousness is there. That there is a part of me which is getting annoyed, and then there is a part of me which is looking at me getting annoyed. That it's a witness stance. Mother says one has many witnesses inside oneself, and often one is a witness without even being aware of it. And that's how we can, when we go back, we become aware of even more things happening, because there was some part of us which was witnessing. What was the reaction of that person, this person, that person? The whole field of play becomes alive when we go back to this witnessing. Say. And then Mother says, and if you develop this, so this has to be inculcated, this has to be developed. If you develop this, it always gives you the possibility of being quiet and not being affected by things. One detaches from them, looks at them as a dramatic scene without participating in it. Yeah, anything here? Anyone? So I'm going to go ahead then. We'll listen to the full teaching.
This is a very important point in meditation. We're not trying to, engineer the mind into some kind of unreal posture. We are going with the flow of the mind, but knowing the mind. Because we don't know our mind. It's extraordinary because we live within the mind. Everything that we know from outside, we can only know because we are conscious. And what stimuli we receive from the seeming external reality that we posit through the sense doors is programmed immediately by our sixth consciousness, the mental consciousness. So even our seeming outside reality depends on the mind. And then within the mind, all our thoughts, our memories, our ideas, our beliefs, our sense of identity, it all depends on thought. Everything is thought. We're swimming in this ocean of thought. But like a fish, because we are so used to it, we don't know what is the nature of water. So it's very important to begin to understand what is a thought, because we are so mastered by our thoughts, governed by our thoughts. So what is a thought? And as Swamiji said, what is a thought? Who is the thinker? It's not enough just to read a book about it or hear a lecture. we, each one of us, have to individually examine our own mind, question our own mind, really look into our own mind. What is a thought? Where does it come from? Where does it go to? What does it feel like? What is a thought? Our whole life is governed by our thoughts. What is a thought? And who is thinking? Once we really begin to examine this, this is what changes our internal landscape. And it comes from being more and more aware, more and more conscious, more and more mindful, looking at the mind itself. We're always looking outside. Now, turn that attention inside. Yes.
Yeah, anything? Yeah. This actually reminds me of one of the short videos by Mingyo Rinpoche. I had shared it earlier also with many of us, where he talks about three ways of transforming disturbing emotions. One way is transforming their nature, the other one is abandoning them, and the third one was seeing their true nature. So, what Jetsunma was sharing about what is a thought, where is it coming from, where is it going back? If we more and more observe this in ourselves, and if we get to know the true nature of thought, we won't be able to take our thoughts that seriously. The how seriously we take them right now, our opinions, our ideas, especially for these little trivia that we get entangled into, wanting to make myself right and the other wrong, proving a point in the argument. It's another thing that we take a stand for a right cause, that's something else. But how all the time, 24 hours, we are just churning in the head and believing in those thoughts, the circular vicious thoughts that come up again and again. If we truly discover for our own selves, not only just read about it as she was sharing, just discover what is a thought and where is it coming from, where is it going back to, then we will be able to see the true nature of thought. And once, if only once we see the true nature of thought or any disturbing emotion like anger, jealousy, where is it arising from and where is it going back? If only once we see that, then the way we stick to it when it arises, we won't be able to do that. So what she was sharing, that the whole internal landscape will change if we observe, turn the microscope within and look at our own thoughts, and not only thoughts, content of thoughts, but where are they coming from and where are they going back to. Because then we see for ourselves that they come back, they arise from awareness, from emptiness, and they go back in emptiness. Just like clouds, monsoon clouds, they arise and go back, they arise and go back. So one won't be able to take all these vicious loop of thoughts that important and that seriously the way we take it right now. We'll give ourselves better things to do. Yeah. Yeah, anything here? Any reflections? Yes.
Yeah, lot of things, but to start with, Thay, he talks about, how mindfulness, concentration, and insight, they are related. That when you are mindful, you develop your power of concentration, and when you are more concentrated, when you are more present, then the insights come to you. You know how he uses this example that, I pour my tea mindfully. That's mindfulness meditation, tea meditation. When I drink tea, when I'm looking at my cup, I see a cloud in my, that's a cloud which is my tea now, which is going into me and becoming me. I mean, it sounds like, what is he talking about? But when you start slowly seeing things for what they are, the other day, while I was in the shower, I realized that, this water would actually be on ice caps someday, was part of, say, Kelasha, for example, right? And then it, the whole thing that how it came and became, the glacier, the river, and now it's on me. So I'm actually, kind of receiving it from the mountains. I mean, just like, and that's a fact, right? And yet, when I go, I don't know, spend so much time, energy, and effort to the mountain, I am in awe. But right now, which I just have to open a tap and just shower, right? It's just, I'm not even there to say thank you. I'm not even there to realize the connectedness, the awesomeness, right, of the everyday miracles that are happening. How sad is that, right? And yet, not staying with the sadness, just saying, okay, now I can do it, right? If I haven't done it for, I don't know, 40 years, that doesn't matter. But now I can be mindful, just like, she was sharing that what is a thought, right? How is this connection? Like, we are all so strongly, mostly opinionated, right? That this is what I believe in, this is what I don't believe in, this is my views on this religion, this is my view on this political party. But this mechanism which is helping us form these views on which we are, it's a do and die situation, right? Like if, say, for example, somebody doesn't like Modi, or somebody doesn't like, I don't know, the Gandhi family, in general public parks, I've seen people like really lose their calm over, okay, how can you even support them? Like, are you blind? Are you deaf? And yet, the mechanism through which we are forming these opinions, it's hilarious that we don't even know that mechanism, right? How am I liking who am I liking? I have no clue. It's like, we are ruled, and we are so happy being ruled, happy calling ourselves very intelligent and wise, and not even realizing how the chain of events is happening around us, right? Like, what did I see? What did I hear? What does my parents think? What news article did I read to get me here? Like, it's, but once you start, it's unbelievable what all things you have not been seeing that are in front of your eyes, right? It's just, it I like, I don't, it leaves me speechless, like, and it's good, it's such a blessing to be left speechless, because it's so much more beautiful than just talking about things that one doesn't know. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. This thing that you shared about mindfulness and insight, uh, it also comes with Sri Aurobindo, where he shares that mind is a beautiful receptacle to receive the higher knowledge. It's not an instrument. Like its function is not producing knowledge, its function is receiving knowledge. So what you were sharing, Sri Aurobindo also talks about it, that the mind, when it is made stable and still and mindful and alert, then he talks about different layers of mind. Those of us who have read a bit would know what he talks about. He talks about higher mind, and then illumine mind, and the intuitive mind. So it's so amazing, as you were sharing, that we don't even know this instrument that we are using to form these solid hard opinions, that we have no clue how it operates, and we have no self mastery over it. And even if we can begin, as you said, that okay, 40 years doesn't matter, right now I can start. And we see, all of us see, that when we, even for glimpses, we make our mind still, alert, relaxed, we do have insights and intuitions. Where are they coming from? How did the mind receive them? Because they were not there earlier, now suddenly they appeared. So yeah, it's amazing what they talk about, that the powers we have and the way we live like beggars. It's really amazing. And yeah, leaves us speechless only. After talking so much, we can say we are speechless, but yes, very true. So at least now we can begin. It's never too late. At
Mm.
least now it's good time to start. Yeah.
Like Dr. Basu, when you
Mm.
hear his presentations, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? But like
Mm.
about, say, even the minds and the chakras that he did the workshops on, I think even if I am able to accept that I don't know, and I just know this much, that what I know is limited, right? I think that's a very beautiful beginning, right? Like that in itself opens a lot of possibilities, because when I come from a space of I know, I don't see then, right? I'm just all shut down. So when you talked about all the different levels of mind, I remember when I when I attended the workshop in which he was discussing it beautifully, there was so much I couldn't get, and yet the realization that, oh, there's so much I don't know, was very humbling. That was, I think, again, what did I get out of the workshop? I don't remember, but I remember knowing that, it's limited. It's so limited. It's so limited. So again, what we were sharing and what Jetsunma was sharing, just knowing that I don't know is beautiful. Just that thing, that don't trust it, right? Okay, if I'm saying, oh my God, he's like, just let me go and just, you know, blow him up. Don't trust it. Pause. Just, and that, and how things change, we know that yeah, it's nice to know that you don't know fully after thinking that you know so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone? There is a very beautiful song by Kabir ji. It's called Pani Mein Meen Pyasi. And what Jetsunma was sharing here, that we are all the time swimming in thoughts, and yet we don't know the nature of thought. We don't know where it arises from. So when Kabirji says Pani mein meen pyasi, so in the water, fish is thirsty. How can it be? Yet it is. Yet it is. So we see that if we truly see the nature of thought, not even intellectually, but practically for each one of us, we will realize that the nature of thought is pure awareness. You can't have a thought if not for awareness. Every time there is a thought, how do you know that, okay, this is the thought going on? Because of awareness. But we don't know the nature of awareness. We have not realized it in ourselves, and that's why we are so thirsty all the time. We are living like beggars while we are kings, because we don't put effort at the right place, while we keep on putting effort all the wrong places in the life. Who are the people to please, and who are the bosses to please? All the efforts are our, they're at the wrong place. While if only we can put this much effort, which is very simple. My mother says it's a matter of 3 days to have the first realization, which is the psychic realization, the soul consciousness, knowing who we truly are. But we don't want it. We want so many things else. So many other things are more attractive. So when Kabirji is saying that in the middle of the water, the fish is thirsty. So we have to know that in the middle of this ocean of thoughts, we are still a beggar. Why? Because I never put effort on knowing the nature of the thought. What Jetsunma was pointing at. Such a simple tool, such a simple tool. What we do is we get lost in the content of thought. कि ड्रामा कह क्या रहा है, उसमें खो जाते हैं। ये देखने की बजाय कि ये ड्रामा आ कहाँ से रहा है और ये जा कहाँ रहा है। ये रहता क्यों नहीं है हमेशा, ये बार बार आता और जाता क्यों रहता है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल? क्योंकि अगर इतना ही स्टेबल होता तो हमेशा रहता ना, बट हमेशा तो नहीं है। अभी मेरे घर में कोई आग लगा दे, उस समय वो वाला ड्रामा सारा गायब हो जाएगा जो पूरे दिन चलता रहता है, यू नो, ऑल दैट आई विल बी इंटरेस्टेड इन running away and, you know, saving my life. Where is that drama now? So we never question. It's good to question what she was sharing and what was reflected upon. Yeah.
This thing that, this fish is remaining thirsty in the water. There's another thing that Jetsunma had shared, which I loved, and just on further reflection, it was like that how limited, like we were discussing, is the perception that say I'm a fish in a pond, right? The maximum I could know is the pond, and I would think that pond is the world, right? Okay, that could be a river. Okay, I would think it's a river. Maximum, the biggest I could probably as a fish know is ocean, right? That ocean is the ultimate source and it's the water, and yet there are the clouds, there is rain, there are taps. They're like, it feels it's impossible to know the whole thing, right? Being a fish while you are a fish, with because you cannot escape that whole thing. But just again, knowing that I don't know, or whatever I know is limited. It's, again, I'm sorry, I'm just repeating myself, but I thought it was a beautiful point. It's not possible, no matter what I do as a fish, to know more than the ocean, right? And then, yeah.
No, I think it's very important to reiterate this point because it actually makes us more open and receptive. While as egos, we become so solid and rigid, you know, that I know better than you. So if that receptivity and porosity can come, that knowing that whatever I may know, it's just nothing but a little window, and that is nothing in front of what is to be known. So that can really humble us and put us back on the ground while we again and again try to fly up. Yes. So there was this small video by Rupert Spira where he was talking about, is there a thinker of the thought? And I thought it was very beautiful, but I don't know if we want to see it right now, or maybe I can just post it on the group also. That's also possible. So what do you suggest? It's about, say, I think 5 minutes or so. Do you want to see it right now or maybe later?
I think we have time. It's 12:27, right? So it'll just,
Ah,
why don't we see it? Yeah,
okay.
if yeah.
So I'm not taking up the question. It's a long question, but what I want to focus upon is what he's sharing about. Is there a thinker of our thoughts?
Let's use the analogy of the dreamer's mind and the dreamed character in the dreamed world. Yes? So all there is to the dreamed character's experience is thinking, sensing, and perceiving. But the knowing out of which the dreamed character's thinking, sensing, and perceiving is made belongs to the dreamer's mind, or it is the activity of the dreamer's mind. So there is no real entity called the dreamed character. The dreamed character doesn't have its own discrete, independent existence. There is no separate self there. There is no real person there. The dream character is simply a temporary localization of the true person, the dreamer's mind. Yes. So as an activity, the dreamed character is not a problem. On the contrary, the dreamed character is the means through which the dreamer thinks, senses, and perceives. What is a problem is when the dreamed character forgets this and believes and feels that it is a discrete, independently existing self or person. In other words, the ego, the separate self, the dreamed character, is not a problem as a process or an activity. It only becomes a problem when it believes and feels it is an entity. Now, the equivalent of the dreamed character in this analogy is each of us. Each of us, this bundle of thinking, sensing, and perceiving, is the activity of infinite consciousness. It is, we are a localization of infinite consciousness that enables infinite consciousness to think, sense, and perceive. As such, we are the agents of creation, of creativity, of manifestation. What we are only becomes a problem when we forget this little bundle of thinking, sensing, and perceiving, forgets that its sole reality is the knowing of the dreamer's mind, and it believes and feels that it is an entity in its own right. I am a separate self. I am a person. I am independent. The knowing with which I know my experience lives in and is generated by, and it therefore shares the limits and destiny of my body. Then the person becomes a problem. The person, the separate self, the finite mind, the ego, becomes a problem. It is a problem only when it believes it is an entity, a person or a self. So it is not a person that does the thinking, sensing, and perceiving. The person is the bundle of thinking, sensing, and perceiving.
So I didn't want to take too much because it's very rich and intense. Just again, what we were reflecting upon, that we are nothing but instruments through which the infinite consciousness or the divine consciousness, this knowing that we have, the awareness that we have, it knows through thought, through feeling, through sense perceptions. And there is nothing to us. That's why they say that Paramatma ke alawa kuch nahi hai. That's why they say that there is nothing but the divine. Because there is nothing to us, no thought, no feeling, no sense perception can be there if the knowing of thought, knowing of feeling, and knowing of sensation is not there. And then surrender becomes very easy. When we see this happening, when we go to the root of this instrument that we are, then surrender is not a problem. Surrender is only a problem, as he was sharing. The problem comes when this entity, that instrument that is there, it becomes its own in charge. It says that I am the one and there is nothing beyond. I am the one ruling myself. I am a separate existing solid self. Then it becomes a problem. Then even surrender becomes a problem. That who do I surrender to and what do I surrender? But when we see that that divine consciousness is the only means by which I can know a thought, a feeling, a sensation, and there is nothing to me but that knowing, then we see that we are already in a state of surrender. So for those of us who are interested, they can continue. I'll share the link also in the group and you can listen to it more. But I didn't want to make it too packed because we have reflected enough. So just taking these small little points back home of for taming the mind, relaxing the mind, keeping it just aware, alert, and not making this also into an activity, not stressing us too much with I have to achieve or I have to get somewhere. So, any last comments, anyone? Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. Good night.